Yes.
Meeting to order. We will begin with the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. City Council President Suzanne Souter. Councilperson Joseph Day. Councilperson Nerman Zubaka. Councilperson Andrew Zelt. Councilperson Brian Mattaway. Also present, Mayor Valerie Leary. City Treasurer James Wissman. City Administrator Antonina Tantillo. Chief of Police Richard McCabe. Building Official Jeffrey Bergstrom. City Solicitor Lisa Hatfield. And City Planner Chris Rogers.
Okay, the first item of business is the minutes of our February 18th meeting. Does anyone have any comments or corrections to that minute?
Microphone on.
Mine is it not working? How's that? No.
The same thing yesterday. Or
You got the wrong one, I had. Thanks, no.
Next.
China. How's that? Is that better?
I don't know. No.
Did you click them on? Is that one better?
are they on?
Did you? They're green.
They're on, yeah, they're on.
Oh, it's on.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, I'll try to speak loudly while Ken's playing checks this out. The minutes of the February 18th meeting, last month's regular meeting. Does anyone have any comments or corrections?
I
Yeah.
just have one, please,
Sure.
made on page 12, about middle of the page. We want to, fifth bullet point, last sentence says lodging tax, that should be replaced with gross rental fee tax.
Okay. Can you touch your mic, please? Testing. 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 They're on, I just touched your letter. I'm sorry. Yeah, they're
Yeah, they're full battery.
Yeah, it doesn't change, maybe rebooted.
Yeah, I did.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry about this. Ms. Wig, did you catch that correction?
I did, yes.
Okay, and I have one on page 6. It's on now? Yeah. Okay. On page 6, the, fifth bullet point, oh no, sorry, that was. On page 6, the fourth bullet point under the Chief McCabe's report, it says Saturday, March 1st, it's the attack addiction. The annual attack addiction run. I can see how that could have gotten garbled in translation. Any other comments or corrections? Then do I have a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. And then we have minutes of a special meeting on February 19th. Fairly simple because it was executive session. Are there any comments or corrections to that? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
Sorry, I'll just make myself, abstain, I was absent from that executive session.
Oh, okay. So Mr. Zabaka is an abstention for the minutes of the 19th special meeting. Okay, our next item is a presentation from the Board of Health. Ms. Gallagher, thank you.
Thank you. In 2024, the Board of Health met twice. Unfortunately, as a small board, it's sometimes difficult to have a quorum. Really? I don't care, despite only meeting twice instead of 4 times like we usually meet, we did complete the following. We had some articles, from the Board of Health published in the weekly in 2024. One was on tick-borne diseases, another was on RSV, and I can't remember what the last one was. Updated our section of the code so that we have more flexibility and membership may more accurately reflect today's changing healthcare environment. 2 longstanding members of the board, Dr. Joe Viola and Ellie Green, chose not to continue on the board in 2024. Thanks to Mayor Leary, we now have 2 new board members, Jamie Majewski and Susan McLaughlin. Both individuals joined us for the first time in our fall meeting. Just so you know, our board currently consists of a physician, 2 nurses with public and community health background, a mental health and substance abuse professional, and a paramedic. We have no openings at this time. And that's sort of an embarrassment of riches on that Board of Health, I must say. Our members stay up to date on community and public health issues in a variety of ways, mostly through vetted online sources. At least 2 of our members are interested in attending CERT training, which is Community Emergency Response Team training. That's usually offered through Newcastle County, and I just checked their website a couple days ago, and there are no dates currently posted on that at this time. Of our 5 members, 1 has had FOIA training, that's me, and the remaining 4 are interested in attending a FOIA class, especially if it's offered online. So far, we found the guidance from Antonina Tantillo to be invaluable. We are interested in exploring what activities other health boards in towns our size are involved in and think she can help with that. Community input to determine what our residents feel is important to them would also be useful in guiding our direction. We are currently exploring statewide data sources to information we can glean from those, but may consider a resident survey in the future. Besides the guidance and support from Ms. Tantillo, having the code enforcement officer back with us to discuss his or her activities will be helpful once that individual is on board. For 2025, the Board of Health plans to focus mostly on community mental health issues while still remaining alert to emerging threats which might affect the health and well-being of our community members. Right now, that includes watching developments related to avian flu and measles. In addition, we want to interact more collaboratively with other groups and or events in the city. We hope to offer a community health fair, possibly in late summer or fall, and possibly in conjunction with one of the blood drives. We'll also continue to seek opportunities to write articles for the weekly. And that's it. Any other stuff is in my report and you can have it. Thanks for the opportunity to share information about our Board of Health, and we appreciate your input and your interest.
Well, thank you for your work and your whole committee. Any questions from council for Mrs. Gallagher?
Good evening. Thank you for presenting the report, and thank you for ensuring that we have fully staffed board. It's probably one of the toughest boards to fill it, so I appreciate your expertise and time. I just had a question about when you were thinking about mental health workshops or activities. Can you tell us a little more what you're planning on doing? Just curious.
It's probably mostly public information, like the articles will probably be related to mental health sort of activities, making people aware of what resources we have available when you need to recognize that either you or a family member has a problem that needs more help, those sorts of things.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Have you seen an uptick in since pandemic, I guess, and onward in
Our
residents' mental health?
paramedic member certainly says that that's a lot of what they see. Certainly considering that the substance abuse issues come under mental health issues. I happen to be a volunteer for Paws for People with one of my dogs, and we've seen a huge uptick in need for just support and kind of emotional relaxation needs in Paws for People. So that's why. We also recognize that the police department has now the CORE program, I believe. And we just actually had a meeting about that, but I didn't mention it. Then this year, not last year. So we know it's an issue in our area.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, one of the reasons I was earlier in the year, I was bringing up the chessboards, kind of like a social hubs for some of the younger and older residents, because I was driven by a lot of, the mental health issues that people may have, living alone and, just finding companions and, kind of to share day-to-day stories. So thank you for bringing that up. And if you guys come up with some other, I heard that you're learning from other towns with Ms. Santillo about their practices. I'll be open to, as a council person, discuss anything that you guys might need funding for in addition to, what's already funded, so we can, see if we can provide some additional services for residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I got one other comment. Ms. Gallagher, I wanted to thank you and the board for bringing forward the initiative to change the ordinance in respect to the composition of the health board, knowing that for such a long time, it required that a position be on the board, knowing that we have, but there are certainly qualified candidates outside of a position in today's practice that can benefit. So thank you for bringing forward that change.
Okay, Mr. Westman, Treasurer's Report.
Yes, ma'am. The year is moving along quickly. We're through 8 months, which is 67% of the year. So February 28th is this report. And as of February 28th, unrestricted funds we had in the account were $9,339,306. Restricted funds were $3,258,002. So it's a total of $12,597,309. Those numbers are pretty stable, and I think it's good. The year is 67% over. Our revenue side, we've collected 69% of our projected revenues, with the property taxes being the large number, with 100%, a few other odds and ends, but we're in good shape financially in collecting our money. On the expense side, we've incurred 61% of our annual budget of $4,257,886. And our total budget is $7,027,788. So it's 67% of the year is true. We've incurred 61% of our expenses. And this change will change from time to time, but for the most part, I think we're in good financial health going into the rest of the year.
Thank you. Any questions from council for Mr. Westman? Okay, thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report subject to audit? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Report from Ms. Chantello.
More of that thing. All right, good evening, everyone. Okay. We have hired our new code enforcement officer. Mr. Draper comes to us from the Public Works Department. He started in his new role last week. We're excited to have him on board, and he's already begun addressing some matters of concern. We look forward to the great asset he'll continue to be to the city. The city planner and building official and myself met with Mr. Hermes of Kleinfelder and representatives from DelDOT recently to review the Delaware Street Railroad crossing improvements, which we talked about a few meetings back. They are working to continue the 3 phases of the project, which included the fuel signs, which were installed, and they're working on moving towards adding the new signal poles and the signal relocation and the relocation of the gateway on Delaware Street. Last month, we advised that we were awaiting another update from them regarding the ditch cleanout behind the shopping center. They are committed to that and said that Norfolk Southern is committed to that as well. And they are continuing to face delays internally, but will strive to get it done as quickly as possible. They're going to continue to nudge them along and notify us as soon as they have an update on that. And we'll have to discuss the gateway area at a future meeting and the remainder of this project as it continues to progress. Wanted to give you an update on that. Last month, we advised that the addition on the rear of Mount Salem would be removed. The contractor had some delays due to weather in the winter months, but they have continued over the past couple of weeks to bring the building into compliance. And the code official reviewed the work as it was progressing today and said that it was, going well and assuring that they bring the building into compliance as required. As many of you know, the floating pier installation has been underway for the past week and a half. The gangway was attached and installed today and should be nearing completion tomorrow, with final items being completed and the barge being removed and moved out of the river via tug. We're glad that this is nearing completion for use in a potential emergency. The test pile on the other side of the wharf will be removed at a future date. They have to come in with divers and remove it from underneath. We've heard some concerns from residents regarding the dock and are continuing to work with the Goodwill Fire Company to ensure the dock will continue to be the best asset it can be for emergency use. The work under the citywide pavement contract is underway by Cirillo, and these markings again, if they may be working on the street, so just installs, should they receive a notification from Cirillo that they will be working in your area. And we have also met and are going to meet with Advanced Paving Service to continue the work for the sidewalk contract. We're continuing the 3 UD projects that we're working with the students on this semester. This includes the website updates and refresh, the HR updates for job descriptions, and the project regarding revenue evaluation for the city. The dog park survey and wetlands evaluation was recently completed. Councilman Dalton and I are working to review this, and we'll be discussing how to proceed according to other specs for fencing and other amenities. Reminder that the city election will take place on Saturday, April 12th. Residents are reminded to register to vote with the state by April 7th. You can go to ivote.de.gov to register, and absentee voting is available at the city office. If you have any questions, you can contact us directly. Last week, myself and our flood resiliency chair, Ms. Reel, attended the RASCL, which is the Delaware Resilient and Sustainable Communities League Summit in Dover. It was a wonderful conference exploring innovative strategies and advancement in climate science. It provided us with wonderful insight and real-life examples of solving and remediating issues such as flooding in other municipalities like the city of Lewis. The information was extremely helpful in continuing with their community flooding risk. Speaking of, as we mentioned at the last meeting, the Flood Resiliency Committee members, the chair and the council president, along with representatives from DelDOT, DENREC, the Castle County Conservation District, all met with the Army Corps. And as a resolution of that meeting, we have submitted a letter of interest to the Army Corps of Engineers to pursue a project to help remediate the flooding in the city. We're working through that process with them now to explore how we can go about working together. We are also working with the UD Grant Assistance Program, or the UDAP program as it may be called, to apply for a BRIC grant, a Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant. I'll talk more about it for the 3rd agenda item, so I don't want to bore you with all the details, but I'll get into that a little bit later. And as always, we are continuing to seek additional grants. So I'm working on some Homeland Security grants and some park grants. I don't have any updates on the grants that I applied for in the late fall, early winter, but as soon as I do, I'll update you some more.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Regarding the letter interest.
Yes.
Well, thank you first of all for, great overview and the work you're doing. So is this, last meeting we talked about this, to a certain degree, sir. Is this, move in the right direction in a sense of like, this was the next step that was needed to help with identifying the scope of the project, I guess? Is that kind of what happens after the letter?
Yeah, so I submitted a letter of interest to them and they're working with me as we speak to go through the different sections to which we could have a project be applicable for, related to like inland flooding, marine flooding, different projects, or just an overall kind of feasibility of where we stand, and based on all the work that we have already done. So we're trying to identify which route to choose. But it's definitely a step forward in the right direction, and they were very encouraging of trying to move these projects along and develop a solution.
Great.
I'll just add that, pardon me, when I participated in that meeting on February sixth with the Army Corps and others, I was struck by their comment that the whole process takes several years.
Yeah.
And yes, funding is very limited right now, but if we don't submit our letter of interest and get things moving now, when the funding, if we wait until the funding does become available, then we're at the back of the line. So if we submit it now, then when the funding's available, we've done the paperwork, we're there, they know what we need, they know what they can do, and we're in a much better position.
Thank you both.
Any other questions from Ms. Santoro? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chief.
Evening. Hopefully brief tonight. I just wanted to start by, identifying a few things that are in my report that may look a little bit more disturbing than they are, so if I could, go to the back page, we address our priority on the call. I assume we have three local code of burglary in progress, because they all sit outside of the city. We domestic with weapons, so three of those, one actually ended up being suicide, and one was assist out, and then the third was an actual domestic involving action, but we made an arrest. You'll see a person with a gun complaint, that was unfounded. A robbery that had happened, that ended up actually being shoplifting that went bad, so. A suicidal person with a weapon that actually was a suicidal person, but they weren't armed. So it looks a lot worse than it actually is, some of these just never got recoded. We did make, last night, I just put this out on Facebook too, yesterday. One of our officers is assigned to the FBI Delaware Violent Crime and Safe Streets Task Force, apprehended one of the suspects that was involved in a May 2023 robbery at the Shell. So we knew there were two suspects, both robbed their victim at gunpoint. Our detectives identified them relatively quickly, but locating them was challenging. So one was located last October and arrested, and then the second yesterday. During the course of the arrest, he fled on foot. Our detective caught him. He was armed with a fully loaded handgun, taken into custody after that, and then committed into Gander with a pretty significant bail. So that's all I have about this month.
I just wanted to clarify, did you say the domestics in process were all outside the city too?
No, there were, one domestic was outside, one was actually turned into actually a suicidal person, and then one was a legitimate domestic, but we made an arrest. The suspect was armed with a hatchet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bergstrom, did you have anything for us?
I know nothing.
Okay. Thank you. Council communications, we'll start with Ms. Manaway.
Evening, everyone, and Council President. Thanks, Alex, and everything. Next month starts at the beginning. of the Little League baseball season, Newcastle Little League. And later today, during the public comment section, you will hear from one of our friends and neighbors, Ms. Shannon Lewis, about that. Came across two recent articles that I wanted, that I thought were prudent to share with the community. The first is in respect to the Delaware Department of Justice and Attorney Kathy Jennings. In January of this year, a personal data privacy portal was created where individuals, parents, and businesses can learn how to protect data. And that's thanks to the Personal Data Privacy Act that went into effect earlier this year. Really has some really insightful information about how to be diligent. And I'll just ask that I work with Ms. Tintillo to get some of that information out in the various different mediums to our community members. Then the second article that I wanted to share with our community was concerning the senior school property tax relief. So seniors, if you're 65 years and older, you can receive up to $500 off in your school property tax bill. The deadline is April 30th. Again, you have to be 65 years or older. You have to be domiciled within the state of Delaware for 10 years. And once you qualify, you don't need to reapply. And again, we'd love to work with Ms. Tintillo and working to ensure that our seniors are made aware about this, especially maybe the population that are currently under the auspices of our senior property tax exemption. So if we could maybe send them letters or notices. I know you all do a great job and don't mean to pile on, but just something I'd be happy to help out with in whatever capacity I could. Then finally, last meeting, Councilman Baca, during his council communication, celebrated diversity within our community. And I stand with him and all groups affirming that in the city of Newcastle, you have a place and space. And I look to the historical words of Martin Niemöller. He said, first, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for Jewish people, and I didn't speak up because I was not Jewish. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Those words and the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, who said that we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters or perish together as fools. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you.
That was beautiful words over here. Thank you, Councilperson Mataway, for echoing last meeting's message. I'm excited that code enforcement, as position has been filled, so looking forward for a lengthy stay. Just as a rant, I wanted to thank, I don't know who initiated this, but I was talking to my neighbor 2 days ago about the water pipe coming out of the ground right on the sidewalk. I'm like, this is so high. The next day, they fixed it today, basically. We were scheduled. So it was kind of funny. We talked about it. I'm sure, I know it was already scheduled, but it was nice to see that because I always talk about it like it's such a tripping hazard. So if this is a citywide project, that's great. I always think about it, something that you have to go with a stroller or a trip if you don't have good vision. So thanks for that. I want to thank Representative Cook, what Council Person Mataway just mentioned. I know one of our representatives, Cook, introduced the privacy bill. So I read about it a while ago, and I thought it was much needed, especially with everything happening with the cybersecurity. So it's one of those things I encourage everybody to check because there's so many things nowadays that you can be exposed to. So in my position and work, I have 3-4 security privacy trainings every year relating different things. So there's always some new things that you forget about or that you kind of learn. So I encourage you all to be vigilant about your privacy and security. I wanted to wish everybody Ramadan Mubarak. If anybody's fasting, I hope you have an easy fast and enjoy your iftar at night. and, just kind of use the month to reflect. I wanted to request a little more, if there's information to be shared right now or later about playground phase 2, that would be great. I know that there's funding, and I see Suzanne over there, so maybe you can provide some information there too. I know there's a lot going on, and I think playgrounds nearby, but I'm just curious where we are. But mostly I'm curious, when is this gonna happen, right? So I'm excited, to kind of know, when is it gonna be that we have this beautiful playground? And last thing, I know some people are already aware that, reassessment is heavily underway, so I wanted to suggest that we schedule, in addition to our regular budget workshops, plan at least 1 or 2 additional budget workshops and spread out, so start earlier, so we can start talking to residents about what this means for them, potential impacts, even if we don't have, final data, just to start this conversation, because, we're talking about real impact, and I know we can't say much more than what the council decides later on, but I think, given the interest for this, and this hasn't been done in so many years, it's probably important that we start talking about this in an open space separately out of this meeting, so we can, address people's concerns. Thank you. And lastly, enjoy the nice weather. It's beautiful to see sun, and be able to walk in shorts and short-sleeve shirts.
Thank you, Mr. Zell.
I just have 2 items. First, I see Margot ran in the room. Thank you last night for an amazing planning meeting. Things went well, so I'm looking forward to the next one. May Market's coming up. I know it's coming soon. If you have anything in house you want to donate, also plants, we need plants donated as well, that if you need to split some of your plants up, they will take the plants. You can drop them off on May 1st at the Arsenal, and then May Market is May 2nd and 3rd. So definitely come on out, and we definitely need donations.
Thank you. Mr. Dead.
Just one item, I did notice on Monday that DENREC is advertising that they've submitted their federal consistency certification for the Dobbin Fishing Pier and parking improvements. I've seen it on the internet, wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of it. It seems like that project has been going to happen, but it now actually looks like it's gonna move forward hopefully soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I only have one thing tonight. Pardon me. We've all heard about avian flu, and Ms. Gallagher mentioned it as part of something the Board of Health's keeping an eye on. And some have wondered if the many Canada geese we see around town could be infected. The good news is that at least so far, only snow geese have been found to be infected, according to the Delaware Division of Fish and Wildlife, who monitors this for us. I walk in Battery Park nearly every day, and I haven't seen any snow geese this winter. Some years we've had a few, but not this year. They're pretty easy to spot because they're white, and our Canada geese are brown and black, so the white ones kind of stand out if they're here. We still need to be careful, though, around all geese and avoid coming into contact with their droppings if we can. The Fish and Wildlife advises, please don't feed the geese or other wildlife if you see them in the area. The Delaware Fish and Wildlife website has a lot more detailed information for minimizing risk, like for hunters and others, and for things people can do to discourage wildlife from congregating around your home or other areas, particularly if you have a pond or something. If you do notice a sick or dead goose in one of the city parks, please call the city office. The staff will take any necessary action, including calling Delaware Fish and Wildlife. Fish and Wildlife asks us to report if anyone cites 5 or more dead or sick birds in the same location. Pardon me. Their phone number is 302-735-3600, extension 2, and that number's on their website, so you don't have to memorize it tonight. And finally, if you do see a sick or dead geese on private property, please call Fish and Wildlife directly. We would also appreciate if you could advise the city in addition to that, so that we can keep track of the numbers. If you do have, it's best not to touch any dead birds that you see, but if you feel you want to get them out of there because they're your children or pets, Fish and Wildlife recommends wearing disposable gloves or putting plastic bags over your hands, then double bagging both the bird carcass and the gloves or bags used to protect your hands. And once it's double bagged, then the carcass can just be placed in the ordinary domestic trash. And then, of course, wash your hands thoroughly after you do this, even though you've worn the gloves or bags. So that's all I have.
My apologies, I'm just waving for my daughter.
That's okay.
Thank you, Council President, for that, response.
Yes, thank you for drafting a letter for it.
Okay, this is from the mayor, and then she's also going to do the Arbor Day presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Just following up on what we've been doing this last month, I met with Superintendent Josh Bowles for the National Park Service to see what may be affected for our national park in Delaware. It's not good news if the funding has been significantly reduced, and if it is passed, then it's likely he'll have to lay off around 15 people who are employed here. I met with Antonina Tantillo regarding wayfinding and wayside exhibits. Wayside exhibits are several years old. Some of them are a little faded, a little scratched. And in Newcastle Community Partnership, we'll be taking care of replacing those. We're also looking at the wayfinding exhibits. There's 3, possibly 4 with the city map on it. And we're just going to recheck the city map. We need to add a couple things, take away a couple things, and then we'll look at getting those done. Tomorrow, Council President Souter and City Administrator will be traveling to Washington, D.C. for Hill Day to meet with our representatives, Coons, Blunt Rochester, and McBride. I'm looking forward to a good day of meetings, tour the Capitol, and a nice lunch afterwards with all of the legislators who are going down. I'd like to give thanks out to Mark Lorenz, who lives on the Strand and Harmony. At the end of Harmony Street, there's an area that was significantly overgrown. He started working on it, picking up trash, kind of doing what he could to pull weeds and everything. And we mentioned it to the city administrator, and she reached out and had Public Works come out there with a tiller and everything, and it's weird. There's nothing there, but it looks really good because there are no weeds or anything else there. So this is a possible ongoing project. He has submitted a proposal for planting there, which will be in front of council next month. And last but not least, St. Patrick's Day, this upcoming weekend for the parties and next Monday. I'm wearing green for it tonight. So if you are happy St. Patrick's Day, and if you're out and about, drink safely, travel safely.
Mayor, can I just ask something about the wayfinding? Is your idea right now just to replace the current map for the entire stand? Because late Councilperson Smith was talking at the time to the council about replacing the current map, even though we already have infrastructure in place with the ones that he used with the for the federal projects. Is that the idea there too, to replace? Because I think we talked about it last year in the budget and allocated money for that so that it's more, I think my understanding from his emails that it's more durable and, you know, it's easier to replace, that are cheaper to replace than right now.
Yeah, we're looking into the wayside finding. We haven't made any decisions on it. We just sat down together to go over the map. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, we're working to update the map and look at a more durable solution like we talked about last year.
And you have the map that Councilperson Smith shared?
Yes.
Okay.
I was able to locate
Were you going to get a clean copy? Because I was writing on the one we had. Oh, yeah. You get a clean copy.
I think he sent a digital copy in one of the emails.
Right.
I'll send it. Thank you, guys.
This is Arbor Day proclamation proclaiming April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day. in the city of Newcastle. Whereas in 1872, at the suggestion of James Sterling Morton, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed on April 10th, 1872, with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can be a solution combating climate change by reducing erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heat and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values and enhance the economic vitality of the business areas and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are source of joy and spiritual meaning. Whereas the city of Newcastle has been named a Tree City by the Arbor Day Foundation. Now therefore, I, Valerie Leary, Mayor of the City of Newcastle, Delaware, do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Newcastle, Delaware, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Report from Goodwill Fire Company.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Attached to your report should be our February 2025 review. As a total, we had 181 EMS incidents over the span of the month and 72 fire rescue type incidents. So another steady month. The numbers are about par for this time of year. And if you have any questions on them, please.
Any questions?
You may have seen the large white trailer parked in the parking lot, taking up a lot of space. Over the next month, we'll be doing safety and survival training, as well as bailout training. So you'll see our members out there. You may see some smoke coming out of the trailer into the parking lot. All of our people will be out there going through this process over the next month to make sure that we're confident in our skills as far as self-survival. So if you see us out there, please don't hesitate to stop and say hi.
Good, thank you. Right, we're going to change the order of the agenda a bit to next year's jump to item 2, the MSC financing for 2 vehicles, and Mr. Bloomquist from the MSC is going to talk to us about that.
Thank you. So as you know, our charter requires our commissioners to first approve financing, unanimous approval for us, and then it requires us to come to council and get council approval. We're in the process of purchasing 2 new trucks. One's a new bucket truck, one is a pickup, utility body pickup truck. The lead times on them, so we actually got approval from our commissioners in September of 2023, purchased the bucket trucks. They told us it was a 24-month build, so it's been a long road. Any questions?
Any questions from council?
Thank you for the presentation and for all the great work you all do in the city. Couple questions. The trucks, are these adding to the fleet, or do we have trucks that are retiring?
They're replacements, yes. So our, the new bucket truck will replace the 2005 bucket truck. And the pickup truck, utility body pickup truck is replacing the 2008 utility body pickup truck.
Will these trucks, I'm sure they're, better fuel efficiency, other stuff, but are they gonna allow you all to do anything new that you presently can do, or is it pretty much like just an in-kind truck.
They're in-kind replacements. Yep. So, I mean, our heights of our poles, we can reach all the tops of them so that all our poles, and we would need larger trucks or if there was another need.
And then one last final question, you have an idea of how long you think it'll last?
So we plan for our bucket trucks, 15 to 20 years, and our pickup trucks, 10 to 15. This one went a little longer than 2008.
Thank you.
Because we took this out of order and before public comments, if any member of the public has a comment on this agenda item only the MSC item, they may ask it now, and then we'll do general public comments after. Does anybody have a question or comment regarding the MSC resolution?
From the seat or there?
Well, so everyone can hear you, please go to the podium.
Bill Gross, 1301 13th Street. After attending many of the MSC meetings, Scott's made sure, along with commissioners, that any rate increases have been kept to a minimum. And I've seen how they've tried to extend the life on the vehicles. So vehicles are, again, from going to the meetings or attending them. I've seen and heard that they are starting to break down. So I know MSC would not be spending money if it wasn't a necessary thing. So I urge council to grant the funding.
Thank you. Any other comments on this issue? Okay, thank you, Mr. Blomquist. Is there a motion to approve? Oh, I'm sorry, I need to read resolution 25-19. A resolution to approve MSC financing the purchase of 2 new vehicles through M&T Bank. Whereas pursuant to the Municipal Services Commission, MSC Charter, Section 3G, the Commission, upon unanimous approval of the Commissioners and following approval by resolution of the Council of the City of Newcastle, is authorized and empowered to borrow sums of money in accordance with the additional provisions provided therein, subsections I through X. Whereas the MSC budgeted for the purchase of the vehicles to be financed. Whereas the MSC solicited bids from financial institutions for financing of the purchases. Whereas the M&T Bank provided the most advantageous financing terms. Whereas the Commissioners voted unanimously to approve and proceed with such financing not to exceed $485,000 at their February 2025 meeting. Whereas the Council of the City of Newcastle has determined that the financing complies with the provisions of Section 3G of the MSC Charter and has no other objections to the MSC proceeding with such financing. Now therefore be it resolved that the MSC has approval from the Council of the City of Newcastle to proceed with completing the financing of vehicle purchases through M&T Bank. Is there any discussion from council on this issue?
I just wanted to commend you for keeping vehicles, in operation for 17 years respectfully. I think that's, amazing. So, my car doesn't go that way. What I've been here this whole time. But anyways, my only question was, as you said 2 years ago that you started this process, is the 485 updated number? I presume yes, because you just approved in February. We just wanted to make sure that we're not here a couple months later when this is, and number needs to be updated. Sorry, I didn't ask that earlier.
So the 485 is the number that was budgeted for and is currently still the correct number.
That's all. Thank you. Very good.
Any other questions or comments from council?
Motion to approve resolution 2025-19.
Second, from Mr. Zabaka, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion's approved. Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. Okay, now we move to public comments on everything else. The usual rules, when you get to the podium, please sign the sheet that you'll find there in front of you. State your name and address. Each person has 3 minutes, and please speak into the microphone so everyone can hear you.
Bill Gross, 1301 13th Street. First, I want to quickly remind council about trying to work with the trustees or whoever's responsible for picnic benches out in Battery. Let's not wait till September. Let's get them out, please. Next, as far as flood resiliency, you don't have to spend $10,000 a year to apply for grants. And from what I remember, from attending those meetings as well, the figure was $25 million. And from what I remember, nothing could really be started until there was a grant for much more money, as far as studies or even, putting together plans and that type of stuff. So again, I will ask the council temporarily put on hiatus, the resiliency committee and just have councilperson Souter continue with those grants monitoring. In regards to the election, I think it's time for new, tried and true people to run and win the election. So again, my opinion is we need to start fresh. So when you go to vote, go with new people. A broader search for people, citizens to be sitting in on committees. Instead of somebody being on 2 or 3 committees or commissions, maybe put on the site, looking for people to sit on committees. There's, for an instance of a couple people that I know that are very qualified for a couple committees. They were overlooked, and somebody who's already on a committee was put on another. Where is the dog park slated to be placed?
And the lot on Chestnut Street?
Okay, far from the playground where visitors would normally go.
Yes, we've
Correct.
discussed this before.
Okay. Last but not least, the Eagles are going to the White House, April 28th. We love them, so go Eagles. Thank you.
Van Swift, 16 West Fourth Street. Hi, everybody. I'm going to give the playground update that Councilperson Zubaka has requested. Couple of things to start with. Our funding numbers are up to $926,018. So I'm grateful to everybody who's donated and all the hard work that Encore has done to raise these grants from public and private funds, from community members who've donated. And in that vein, we are going to have Encore's fundraiser will be held at the Mercury Cafe. Please mark your calendar for Saturday, May 10th. And there's even talk of an after party, a casino night. Don't quote me yet, but it's very possible that that'll happen at the Old Town Hall. Thirdly, and this is kind of exciting, next Tuesday, March 18th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., students from the William Penn High School, their media lab, they're going to come to the playground and they're going to take videos of people who will tell them why I love the Battery Park. So if you love the Battery Park, and I know many of you do, please join us
and we'll have the students take a video of you. We're hoping to go viral, and we have a really good reason to think that we will. Lena Deladonna is gonna do her own video, and when we have a bunch of videos for adults and children, she's gonna package them and put them online on her Instagram account. So that'll help fundraising as well. It'll be really exciting. And so I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible next Tuesday, 9 a.m. or anytime between 9 and 12 to make your video. If you can't come that day, and if you're a child, you can come at 2:30 in the afternoon. We've actually broken out a special time just for the kids. Feel free to email me at encoreinfo@encorecoalition.org and with your video, and I will forward it on to Elena, and hopefully you'll be a viral hit as well. Any questions from council?
Thank you, Suzanne. I just had a quick question so what's the gap? That's amazing, the amount raised so far. Thank you for all the efforts there and Anita with helping, that city side. So how much is the gap? And just curious about, I think it's a great idea with fundraisers and the media lab being involved and Elena Deladon. But, what are we thinking? What's the timeline most likely looking like for the playground? They're just.
So we're hoping the fundraising will be done by the end of this year. With luck, it'll be done within the next couple of months. We have a funding gap of just under $150,000 to get to shovel ready. Shovel ready is the number that we had to come up with for the Longwood Foundation. At which point, when we get to shovel ready, they will put in their $150,000. And then we have to do that by December 31st. The Welfare Foundation, who have told us that they would give us $75,000, we have to get to our full funding, which is 1.2 million. So that gap is 280,000. They may be a little flexible on that. We'll have to.
And what is their deadline for the?
That deadline is June 1st. So that one is coming up. So we really are hoping to raise the rest of the money as soon as possible. And we will be having, along with our fundraisers, some matching opportunities for local businesses and folks who would like to support the playground.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I hope you'll all join me for the fundraiser. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments tonight? Okay, and then Dr. Patrick tonight.
Hi, everyone. Amanda Rose. I live on 4th Street. I am just approaching council with an idea that was discussed and presented with other members of the community regarding public comments of potentially not having to present your address. We mentioned data and privacy earlier. It could be that's personal information that some people might not want to put up publicly. So that could be something to consider, maybe not having to request that people state out loud. Possibly they could put it on the sign-in sheet that you guys keep privately still. But just something to consider with that. And then also, after talking to other community members, some people suggested possibly moving public comments towards the end of the night after new business is discussed. Simply because sometimes, we're reading the resolutions that are coming from you guys ahead of time, but we don't really know everything yet, or we want to hear more from council about the information before being able to comment and also be able to ask questions relevant to it after we hear what you have to say. So just something to consider.
Okay, well, I'll just say that in the past, when public comments were at the end, people complained, well, that means we have no input into council's decision. Because if we've already voted on the resolutions before public comments, then we're not getting the benefit of any input that might influence our decisions. So that's the reason it is where it is. Okay, Dr. Padalino.
Evening, everybody. I am Soma Padmalingham, 222 Chestnut Street, I am very proud of all of you to be interested in this great city of Newcastle. I think I am proud of the elected officials for the work they have done so far, and we have the election on the 12th of next month. All I am worried over the last 40 plus years, I came to Newcastle in July of 1980, is the flood situation on Route 9 and around the 6th Street, where there is a little shopping center and a guy with a garage too. They get flooded, they don't have business when it floods. So I think my question to the council is, I know there have been an attempt to do something about it. This has been going on for years, but I don't hear anything positive about it. The federal government, with our elected official as our president, there was several grants given for infrastructure. Maybe the council in the last few years could have put it down that especially Route 9, the one on 6th Street and the other Chestnut Street or whatever it is, could have been put on so that it could be a priority over the years. That is one. Number two is Delmarva Power is really out of people's money, I think, in my judgment. There was a write-up on the weekly, the last weekly about it, but I don't know what the council can do about the fantastic bills from Delmarva Power. And the other thing is about the battery park. I just heard there are 15 employees who are going to be laid off. That is not right. I don't know what the council will make a decision. We have a very good situation of the trustees there to help us out. I hope they make some decision. And the final thing is, what I wanted to say is about the taxes. There have been an attempt by Alice, there have been comments, I read the weekly here, that there may be an attempt to raise the taxes. I don't think most of the citizens in this great city are senior citizens on fixed income. I don't think there should be any attempt to raise the taxes for this great city of Newcastle, especially we have a privileged situation of the trustees helping us all the time. With that said, those are my comments. I hope the sitting members, there are 3 of you right here who are sitting for election. I hope you will consider all these things to have an effort to make sure our city is run the right way. Thank you very much. God bless America.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick points. The Route 9 flooding, actually, DelDOT, that's all the state responsibility, not the city, because Route 9 is a state road. And after many years of us working with DelDOT to try to get things moving, it looks like something's finally going to happen with Route 9 south of town. The second thing is the Delmarva Power bills. Unfortunately, we have absolutely no control over what Delmarva Power does. They work with the State Public Utility Commission to get consent for their rate increases. The layoff of park employees that the mayor spoke of is not Battery Park. It's the federal First State National Park employees who are being laid off. They don't monitor Battery Park. The trustees take care of that. Taxes, we're not looking at changing the rate. The assessment's gonna raise. We have to wait and see how that all shakes down.
I have one more question about the taxes. We are senior citizens. I heard the number $500 about the school tax maybe. But is it going to be dependent on also the amount of income you get?
I don't believe the school tax one does, but the city's tax relief for senior citizens does depend on your income.
I see. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dr. Kathleen. Are there any other comments?
And just for further clarification, of course, we will have future budget workshops to discuss overall budget. And as Councilperson Zubaca requested, we will have additional workshops to discuss the tax increase and the implications for everything.
Hi, Shannon Lewis, 731 West 12th Street. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce myself. I am the Vice President of Newcastle Little League. Right now, we have approximately 160 players who are excited to start their season on April 6th. That's both baseball, t-ball, baseball, and softball. I'm here today because we've established a great Little League. We have amazing families, amazing players. Our coaches are some of the best. And now our vision for the league is to be more than just a Little League. We'd like to have more of a presence in the community, be more involved in the community events. We'd love to get some of our players out to some of the community events, and develop more partnerships with businesses, council, everybody in the community. We want our players to know that they don't just represent us on the field, but also off of the field. Most of them are local to the city of Newcastle. So we're trying to develop not just baseball, softball players, but well-rounded citizens of the community. And we want them to know that the community is an important piece in their lives. Our president has been able to apply for and receive over $200,000 in grants. Last year, we were able to purchase lights for our softball field. With those lights, we've been able to host multiple tournaments. That's brought in a lot of outside business for us. It's brought a little more attention to our league. This year, we have received a grant to raise the fences on our fields. The fences are not as high as they're supposed to be. So right now, we are in the process of getting those fences raised, moving backstops for some of the fields. We are currently in need of sponsors for our league. We have multiple sponsorship opportunities and levels. There's team sponsoring, there's sign sponsoring. We also are in need of some field help. We have a lot of work to do on our fields to get them ready for our opening day. This includes moving a pile of dirt and some rocks in our parking lot that involves equipment that we don't currently have access to. So if anyone is interested, we are run completely by volunteers, 100%. Our volunteers, coaches, team parents, concession stand put in a lot of work, both before, during, and after the season. So if anyone is interested, whether you have players or not, we always welcome to help because we need it.
What time is the opening of the?
Opening day starts at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
Could be after the meeting.
I can say yes.
Okay, we'll talk about the pile of dirt and see if we can
Okay,
get some of
perfect.
the.
Thank you.
And what date is the opening day, sorry?
April 5th is opening.
Well, I can bring my shovel. In my first thought,
That was a little bit helps.
yeah, and for the grants, I said a question, I know this is not related to the council, but, I read several articles about the Delaware, Tourism Office giving out, a lot of money and, grants for sports complexes. So I don't know if this was, something you guys already pursued, but just, something you wanted to flag in case you haven't. But I think they started last year or year before that, so I was actually wanting to talk to trustees about that area in general. I didn't know they had some revitalizing the field and stuff, so I thought that would be a great opportunity for that area to, get some uptick in, new fields and, so just something to think about if you guys haven't already. There's an opportunity, I think the stem behind this funding is, they conducted a study that every dollar they would invest in, sport tourism bring, I think, $12 back, so return on investment. So there's, that's kind of how this has been driven, so just,
Thank you. You said that was a Delaware Tourism Office?
yes, I'm happy to share the grant, URL with you after this.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You also send sponsorship information to Anthony so she can send it to all of us, please.
Yes.
I'll share my part.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And thanks for coming. It was nice meeting you, the viewing down for the other day. I'll certainly be out there, help in where I can. I'm trying to speak this into existence. I think it'd be really cool if somehow the city can work, and of course, our partner, we have a new band show. If there's a way for us to take our band show on the road, get it out to the baseball park and have some live music out there under the lights.
That
I think
would
would
be,
really cool.
that would be great. I would, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Not gonna be back there yet. I wasn't gonna speak, something with this, Rob Miller, East Third Street, yeah, concern taxes. Council President Sally, did I understand you correctly when was asked this lady here a few minutes ago, about the taxes, and you said that there were no plans for the city to raise the tax rate? Could you
Well,
elaborate?
we don't, the assessed value has gone up, which means obviously even at the current rate, we're gonna have more money coming in. And what the state requires us to do, once we get final assessed values, is look at what the rate would have to be to bring in the same amount of money, and then move from there to determine if we need to change how we might need to change the rate. So at a higher assessed value, it's possible that instead of our current 1.2, I have no idea what the numbers are, but maybe 0.8 or something.
That's what I thought, that's kind of what I thought.
And then we may find that, well, we need a little more income, so maybe we'll raise it to 0.9. But, so the rate may actually go down, but that doesn't mean people would pay less taxes, because of course the assessed values are higher. But until we get that final information from the county, it's impossible for us to make any kind of
And that's
decision.
still gonna be a while, right?
Well, we're hoping, we've been told it may be as late as May, we're hoping for sooner, because that's gonna make it real.
They when they increase your, like in my case, I think it was like 9 times, over 9 times. And I won my appeal on the phone because I'm pretty good at this, okay? And I got it, but it's still like 6 times. So I just wanted everybody to understand, because it sounded like you said, we're keeping it, I knew what you meant, but it didn't come out that way.
Well, yeah, I was trying to
Anybody
be
in the
brief.
room would like a 6 or 9, would you like your taxes raised 6 to 9 times what they currently are? I think there'd be a mass revolt, so that's not what's gonna happen.
No, it's very frustrating to us too, because it's hard to make decisions when you don't have all the data. Any other comments tonight?
If I could just make one.
Sure.
Regarding the taxes, the county has shared with us some preliminary numbers, as a notified council. So we're gonna take a look at those. Of course, they're not finalized and they're still going through the formal appeal process. So we probably, as you mentioned, look at the numbers much later in the spring. So we'll be continuing to work through that.
But at least with the preliminary numbers, we can start to get some better idea.
We're going to look at that.
So I just wanted to, you can stay on the microphone because you might know this, as a definite, fact. So, the appeal comment that was made, I think it's very important. So I know that county was looking to extend it, and I'm hearing Council Part Matter was saying that they have extended it until 30th. Can you, confirm that, or anybody else in the room that knows that? I know they had a meeting on Monday, I believe. But anyways, what I wanted to say, if it's extended by the end of the month, I do encourage you to look at your, if you don't have the letter with you, go to the Newcastle County's parcel search, look up your address, and you can see your current value and your current reassessed value. So that can give you an idea of, how much, what's gonna be your new value if, no appeal happens by the end of the fiscal year. So just, encourage you to check your address and then, if you haven't already. That's it.
Okay.
I was just gonna add, I checked my email, I'm on, and everyone can sign up for this. Our county council person is Kevin Kaneko, and I signed up for his like email updates, and I just checked it. Sent out a District 12 update today at 12:40 PM. And so, Newcastle County will reconvene Thursday, March 13th at 10 AM for a special meeting concerning reassessment to extend the deadline. So we've heard overtures from several members of Newcastle County Council that they intend to extend it. But that meeting has not taken place yet. Again, it will take place Thursday, March the 13th at 10 AM.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
I have one serious comment, just for one, about the fact.
Captain William, I'm sorry, we really do have to move on. You've had your 3 minutes.
I understand, but I think, the
Sir, I'm
access,
sorry, no.
the access to farmers market, there is a big manhole, people are going to get their car damaged. That's all I want.
Okay. Okay. The next item is resolution 2025-18, appointing Melissa Pavone to the Flood Resiliency Committee. I will read the resolution. Whereas the city of Newcastle County, the Newcastle City Council established the Sea Level Rise Task Force by resolution 2022-04. And whereas resolution 2023-32 converted that task force to a permanent committee known as the Flood Resiliency Committee. And whereas there is currently a vacancy on this committee to which Ms. Pavone has agreed to be appointed. Now therefore be it resolved that the city council hereby appoints the following person to the Flood Resiliency Committee. Melissa Pavone, Flood Resiliency Committee, term ending January 9th, 2027. In your council packets, Ms. Pavone provided a brief summary of her background. She has a PhD and a couple of master's degrees in city planning and American study, in city and regional planning. She's worked for the Archdiocese of New York, managing housing. She's also was the deputy director for planning for the New York City Housing Authority. And she worked as a city planner in New York City for 18 years. So I think she will be an invaluable addition to the Flood Resiliency Committee. She wasn't able to be with us tonight. Is council ready for a vote?
That's one great comment. I'm so thrilled that somebody here was able to convince Ms. Pavone to join any of the committees, because I know her name is always floated by whenever there's a vacancy. So, and this just, I'm always excited when our neighbors are willing to step up to join one of our committees because of the important work that they do and serve, but also just we're so lucky as a city to have so many skilled neighbors who are willing to donate their time and knowledge to do the work. And I know there's several of you here in this room. So thank you all for, using your free time, instead of reading or walking in the park to dedicate some of the time back to the city. Thank you.
Why wouldn't she be on the planning committee?
Other public comments, Mr. Price? Is there a motion to approve resolution 2025-18?
Should approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
The resolution is approved. And the final item on the agenda is possible a discussion, possible motion and vote to authorize a letter of commitment for a 25% project match for the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities, also known as BRICS grant program. And Ms. Tentio is going to tell us about this.
Thank you. So yes, as I mentioned earlier, I'm working with the GAP team, and with our AECOM, one of our engineers, Emily Dingard, who kind of applied the resiliency, meetings to apply for a BRIC grant. As you mentioned, it is the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant. It's a grant for FEMA to support communities as they build capability and capacity. So we're focusing on a grant application to evaluate the studies already conducted to evaluate the feasibility of raising Army Creek and Corey Marsh, Broad, and Buttonwood Lakes to an elevation at or above 100-year floodplain.
and determine the appropriate levels for them to be raised and plan further raising, along with determining the feasibility of extending the grants if necessary. We've done a lot of work as previously mentioned, but a decision has not made, so this work with this grant will help us pursue an outcome of these things. The grant may require 25% cost share, which would require a letter of commitment for the application process. We are aiming to get the application process done by April 1st to get it sent to DEMA so that they can evaluate it before we officially submit to DEMA. So AGCOM has provided us with a rough cost analysis for the project of approximately $235,000, of which a 25% cost share would be $58,750. This is just an estimate. It could be more, it could be less, depending on the work. We're still, scoping out the project. I know that we have discussed working do something to resolve flooding for a long time, and we talked about potentially using some ARPA funds or some other funds that you have to dedicate to these types of projects. So in addition to the grant application, I would like to submit a letter committing us to the 25% grant match or cost share. And of course, I'll continue pursuing other grant opportunities to help us with this 25% match, but I would like to, continue pursuing this grant and commit to up to 25% match.
Do you have a rough idea of how much money we're talking about?
Yeah, so if AGCOM's rough quote is 235,000, it would be about $58,750.
So the 230 is the total, and the 58 would be our roughly 25%.
Correct.
Which we could possibly raise from other grants.
Correct. And, this is just a letter of commitment. We don't know if we're going to get the grant. So there's a bunch of things up in the air, but I did want to have this discussion with you preliminarily as I'm pursuing this grant.
And is there a deadline for this application?
Yeah, so April 1st to DEMA, and then we're waiting on the submission date to DEMA.
Okay, and once we submit to DEMA, then we've made the commitment that if they approve us, then we'll come up with 25%.
Yes, if approved.
Right, if approved, of course. Other questions or comments?
I was looking at this grant earlier today, and I saw April 18th as a deadline at DEMA, so I'm guessing DEMA is trying to get some time in
Yeah,
between
they
the
want to
grant
evaluate
application.
it
Yeah.
for us.
I was looking at that as well as the prior recipients. One of the neighbors talked about, the flooding being one of the big issues, and then, we absolutely as a city, I think it is very serious. It's probably one of our top 3 priorities, if not the top priority. So there's a lot of different ways we're looking at this. So thank you for looking into this. My biggest question is, how is this different from the grant that was already approved? I know it's on hold, but what's the work that's being done here that wouldn't be done with that grant? That's my clarification. I don't know if this needs to be addressed by somebody, by ACOM here, but, just
So
curious.
this is one portion of that NRCS grant that was approved. That grant is still in limbo because of the federal funding limbo that they're in. They don't know if they will be able to give us any funding. So with the Flood Resiliency Committee, we've been trying to find other means of funding so that we can do some or all of the work. They have talked about it at a couple of their meetings that because we don't know if we're even going to get this funding, which was a much larger amount than this project, in the millions, that we should definitely try to continue working our way to figuring out how to resolve some of those issues.
So let me, so I have a couple other follow-up questions. If we were continuing the grant that we already received and we were kind of already starting on that, hypothetically, would we be pursuing this as well? Would this be another, no, okay. So the only question that I have about the other grant is, so I applied for, my whole position is funded by grants.
Right.
Most of the federal grants and private foundations. So when I apply for IES and IH and NSF grants, those are grants that have already been appropriated by Congress, by those agencies. So like, I'm just confused, I understand the money can be on hold, but the grant that we applied for and got approved for, that money was already put aside, I guess, in a prior year. So I know that right now we can have a freeze, but I guess I'm confused, how is there no money that was already set aside, let's say, 3-5 years ago? I don't know when this particular program was set aside. So I would like you to reach out to the program person overseeing this grant to just inquire about that, because that, like, nobody goes out and says, hey, go apply for grants, and then we look for money. It's the other way around. We set aside X amount of money, people apply, and then we say, based on the funding we have in applications, these are the recipients. So that's just how it works. On my end, that's I know how these grants work as well. So just wanted to see if we can do a little more digging on the larger grant that we received to get a sense of, we understand it's on hold, but, this was already approved, and I don't see any DEIA here, in that grant. I mean, this is not something that should be stripped down. Like, I had my research grant taken away because it was, racial equity grant person. That I understand. I don't think the flooding falls there. So like, I'm,
So we have reached out to Darren Gregg, who's the new representative for the state, and this was even prior to the Trump administration. And at that point, she still was unsure if we would get funding at the time, and President Sauter was on the call. She had basically said that the funding with Delaware was already distributed. So, and they didn't know how much more they would get to continue pursuing our project. So I will reach back out to her and get further clarification. But at the time when we spoke to her, it was October, November. She was still unsure if this would get funded.
sorry, President.
Okay, go ahead.
So then is the money then at DEMA or Denver? Because I don't know, I'm guessing DEMA probably would be responsible body, and we just need to get it from DEMA, because it's earmarked for this project. I wouldn't assume it's given to the state to spend without noting the grant ID and.
So it was through the MRCS. I don't know that it went through DEMA.
Yeah. The NRCS is part of the US Department of Agriculture.
there we go.
And we were accepted into the program, which is not the same as being given a specific grant. So no, as I understand it, no money was specifically like earmarked for Newcastle. We were accepted into the program, and that's the first step. But then everything's kind of ground to a halt since then because of the change in the way grants are handled through the federal government. And also, Ms. Gray told the Delaware, the head of this NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service, that's what that stands for. She's the head of that in Delaware. She said the money that they did have in that program had all gone out to national programs and to things like the flooding after the hurricane in North Carolina, which were seen as more immediate needs, whereas ours is a preventative action. They had, communities destroyed, so that got bumped to the top of the
I
list.
understand.
So I don't think you can say that money is sitting in a little pot somewhere waiting for somebody to release it and say, okay, go ahead and give it to Newcastle. It just means we qualify under their program rules. And then the next step would have been to move forward into more specifics, but we never got that far. At least that's my understanding.
No, I guess it was just maybe my misunderstanding of where we were, like, we weren't recipients of the grant, we were just eligible to apply for the funding, so
And I
I'll
wasn't
look into
here
that
when it
myself.
initially was discussed, but maybe things were looking much more optimistic at the time, and it said, yeah, we have this abundance of money that we think probably would be good. I'm not sure though.
Thank you.
Councilman Jennings.
Yeah, just a couple of things. So, I heard you say what the deadlines were
Yes.
for applying. So if we do apply for this, when would we likely know if we're gonna get a grant or not?
I think sometime in the summer, as long as they don't keep changing the dates around for the due date. I believe it's sometime in the summer.
Gotcha.
And I was question today, I was reading through our website today, I only know because on July 2nd last year, they announced recipients for the last year, so
I will say for the little bit of money and for it just being a 25% match, we realize we're probably not gonna get full funding like we were looking at before. We started, we gotta keep the elephant here with one bite at a time. And this is, I think, a good start for a reasonable amount of money. So I think we've all said it, this has always been a priority. And we really, it would be nice to see us move forward. Thank you.
And if we got this, then given that it probably wouldn't be announced till July, it'd be in the next fiscal year anyway, so we'd
Correct.
we'd
Sorry
have
to-
to- we'd have to accommodate that when we do the fiscal 26 budget. Correct.
Very quick question. Maybe a question, Chris, or in respect to this type of, grant application, is the thought that, we'll be given one possible solution, or could there be like multiple options, like A, B, or C, in terms of, taking that forward? Yes, sir.
Well, just the same as we had done this same sort of a process and we're shovel ready when Superstorm Sandy hit, and we got all our dikes raised up to 8.5 feet. We had spent, a couple decades getting to that spot where we could, in fact, be ready to rebuild the dikes. And when the gates opened and money came, we were ready for the first 4 dikes in town, and actually, we added one down south where there was an environmental issue. So this is the same sort of expectation that you have some idea what you wanted to do before you applied for money to do it. The other one, the grant in question is actually a grant to preserve farmland. And that fit was as good as they thought maybe it was good enough, but it wasn't for sure at all, because we don't have so much farmland.
Well, we have to have a certain amount of percentage of open space, farmland or open space. So I think our wetlands added to our count for open
Added to
space.
it, but they, wetlands are flooded, they're not wetlands anymore, they're open water.
Just to add to that, like I mentioned earlier, we've done a lot of these studies, so this will, evaluate those studies that we've done and help us to make a final decision and then hopefully get to a shovel-free project and pursue that forward.
Thank you. The pretext to that question was, because you get results back, wondering, does this move forward, or would this be something that would be shared with the community in a planning commission type of meeting or city council session? Just wondering how we make sure we communicate that and engage all residents throughout the city, but more specifically, those residents around those Broad Dykes area, whether it's Buttonwood or Broad Dyke, et cetera. So that was the full context, wondering okay, we get it, and then what happens next?
Absolutely, and part of that scope, for the AECom work is to include public meetings, with council and, or with like me, so yes, that will most definitely.
No, just, Councilman Mataway, the general scope of work that we put together did include public outreach as well as, direct reporting to the various, appropriate committees.
Yeah, like the budget, it would be great to have like a flood resiliency committee sponsored workshop just for this topic only, so that, we don't come with 3 agenda, but rather just discuss this alone, and, there's a lot of involved parties, like Councilperson Mataway said, so thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Mr. Day suggested that he thinks this is a good idea. Did you want to put that in the form of a motion?
Perfect. I'll make a motion that we authorize a letter of commitment for up to 25% project match for the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant Program for flood mitigation.
Can I just amend it from the ARPA funds, so it's restricted, carryover in the budget, or is that? Okay.
Well, maybe we should leave it flexible so we can determine once we start to look at our fiscal 26 budget. It does not ruling out using the ARPA funds, but it's not saying that that's the only thing we want. It's actually.
That's fair. I wasn't sure, I was thinking we're making a decision right now for the current budget.
No,
Not for that.
it's next year's budget, so.
Second.
That was number.
Okay, so Mr. Day made a motion to authorize the letter of commitment. Mr. Zabaka has seconded. Are we ready for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
So the motion's approved.
Thank you very much. I'll continue to update you as the hearing progresses.
I think that's it. Is there a motion to adjourn? A second? A second to the motion? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Everybody wants to say?
Like,